I didn't expect to see you so soon.
Anakin.
I'm here to finish your training. As Jedi, it's our job to lead. I know you can do this, Ahsoka. Come on, Snips. The battle's not over yet. Don't be afraid. And trust your instincts.
Ahsoka, new episodes streaming Tuesdays.
Welcome back to the Cinema Club. It is your host, Christopher Amick, and I am joined again by Mark Evenson, who has been joining me regularly over the last month and a half or so, which has been really awesome. And we are back diving into Ahsoka, episodes 3, 4, and 5. So definitely some catching up to do. For those new to the Cinema Club is like a book club, but for movies, every episode, Nick Leach or myself invite one member of the Cinema Club to be a co-host for the episode who will choose the movie or television series and join Nick or myself on the podcast. But how have you been, Mark? And also, not to dive into it too deeply, but since we've talked, obviously it's been 3 weeks of Star Wars. How are you enjoying the show as a whole compared to a few weeks ago?
I'm very happy with the show, honestly. We'll get into that. I'm very happy with the show. There's obviously little quicks that I could point out. They did that wrong. That's not right. Or that caution's not quite there. But man, when 95% of it is exactly what you want, it's hard to argue with it. I'm a total fanboy on this show.
I'm right there with you, honestly. This has definitely been a great, fun experience. Just really looking forward to Tuesday nights to throw on Ahsoka. So yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into episode 3, which is titled Time to Fly. So Ren restarts her training under Ahsoka, and Syndulla meets with Chancellor Mon Mothma to gain permission to send Republic forces to Satos. Despite Mothma's support, the senators refuse to believe that Thrawn and Bridger are alive and deny her request.
It becomes more obvious in number 5, but you got a little bit of this in number 2 with the shipyards. The Republic became the Empire, became the New Republic. There are monolithic structures in place and bureaucracies, and you have a galaxy-spanning empire. It takes a lot of minions to make it work, right? And I think we're finally just episode 2 and episode 3 and some of what happens in episode 5 really hitting on the fact that the Republic is not the rebellion.
That's one way to put it. Yeah.
We'll do a little bit more on this on episode number 5, because I think we're seeing multiple things happen in episode 5 that you may not realize in the Star Wars universe, ignoring everything else. But number 3, hey, one of our few Jedis and one of our heroes of the rebellion wants to go check out a planet. Can we have permission to do that? No, really.
That was my thought process as well.
I realized I didn't say thank you for having me on the show. It's been great talking to you. I've been looking forward to this. My wife has started hearing me, but I get to be on another podcast. So I wanted to make sure I said thank you because I didn't earlier.
Absolutely, man. I've been really excited about doing this all day, if I'm being transparent with you, for the last 2 weeks too, honestly. But yeah, I feel you bring so much to the conversation. It's awesome having you, Mark.
Oh, wait till we get to episode 4. Sorry, dude. You're just going to get it. I apologize.
No, that'll be awesome. Yeah, no, when it comes to just the state of things, I remember Hera being a bit better at handling political situations in the animated series. At least that's my recollection. But I do like how she's still very feisty in this conversation. Were you ever in the war, Senator? Or were you just sitting back and waiting to see who'd come out on top? But I was going to ask you about this because you obviously have spent more time in the animated series than me.
I think she did very well with Rebellion Command, as small as it was in the animated series, because there wasn't that much. And most of the time she was hanging out with a general.
That's true.
And she was one of the people running the base versus part of a fleet. And even then she was Phoenix Commander. She was in charge of a squadron of ships. And she was very much part of a special forces unit. You have 2 Jedi running around in a Mandalorian. You don't get sent on patrols. You get sent to go do things. So I think that gave her a lot of latitude. This is also a Hera who has lost the love of her life due to lack of support. from the rebellion who
Great point.
was fighting all over the place. The galaxies, the wars happened, the rebellions happened, and this is years later. It's changed. And I think for her, there's a big difference in rebellion and the New Republic. I'm obviously going to go on this again and again when it comes up, but there's a big structure difference and a power difference and a requirement difference. She didn't have to ask 5 people for permission to go do something. She let
Yeah.
her commander know she was taking her squad of badasses and doing something. And that's the difference between a rebellion structure and an actual organized military.
No, it's a great breakdown, Mark. That is true. And I hadn't thought about the fact that we're seeing a little bit of a different version of the character just because some of the things that happened in the last season or two of Rebels and how that's affected her as the few years have passed.
And
Like
she's
losing
also
her part.
mom, right?
Yeah.
That's going to change your perspective on things. There was a line, it was one of the Jedi, and I think it was Kanan who said, I don't remember joining the military in Rebels. And Hera said, but this is part of the rebellion and we have to do this so that we can succeed and do bigger things and protect Lothal, which was their goal at the time. And he was, yeah, it's cool. I agree with that. I didn't agree to join the military. And I think, again, we're talking character growth. We're talking at least 10, 15 years between. It's got to be at least 10. How old is Jason? 10?
Looks like it's at least 10 or
Okay.
12. Yeah.
So that gives you the amount of time that's been going on.
That's true.
Her-
Yeah.
You see her ship and Chopper in Rogue One on their base. The next time you see the ship in anything, you see it for just a second in episode 9. This is what she was doing in between.
And speaking of Jason, I thought it was really cool getting to see Jason for the first time in live action here
Yeah.
when she does leave that meeting. I definitely enjoyed that little tidbit that we'll get to explore more in episodes 4 and 5 as well.
I
the
just
one-
want his
oh, go ahead.
hair a brighter green. I
Oh,
want
okay.
it brighter green. It's a very dark green. There's a couple times you'll see him against a contrasting color and you'll see how green it is. The rest of the time
Right.
it just looks black, dark brown. So
Not
that's
as
one
vibrant.
complaint I have on the costume is I wish his hair was a little bit more anime.
I have seen online that people have definitely had opinions on the hair.
On everybody.
Yeah. And backing up a little bit, I enjoyed seeing a different training sequence with lightsabers in the beginning of the episode. However, my nitpick for this episode was when Sabine is asking how can she fight when she can't see, when she should know about this a little bit since Kanan was blind in Rebels.
Oh, I hadn't caught that.
I was like, what the hell? Where have you been?
I totally did not catch that one. Now oh, dang. Huh. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Because, yeah, she did at least 3, 4 more episodes with Kanan after he lost his eyes, at least
Yeah, they spent some time when he
half a season.
couldn't see. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very surprising nitpick that she said that because she should know better. You are correct on that. It's also possible it's just a frustrated person.
That's true. We can definitely interpret it that way.
Yeah.
I don't have to take it so personally. What do you mean you don't remember Kanan? Guy with a lightsaber?
My man. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. That would have been Hera. But yes, exactly. That is a good point. All right.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents. But moving forward through the episode, Ahsoka, Ren, and Yang travel to Cetos themselves, where they discover the Eye of Sion. But they are intercepted by a squadron of fighters led by Haiti and Marak, as Elsbeth uses cannons on the Eye of Sion to fire on them. Ahsoka decides to head out onto the wing of the plane while the ship is inaccessible while wearing her spacesuit, diving back and forth and taking out one of the fighters with her lightsaber. Just as Hang finishes scanning the Eye of Sion, Ahsoka's shuttle takes a direct hit, forcing the group to make an emergency landing on the planet, passing through a pod of Purgil along the way to evade the remaining enemy fighters. A lot happens in there. I know that you and I, especially me, gushed about how cool this planet was.
Yes.
And I think it's fantastic that it shows up and plays a big part in episodes 3, 4, and 5.
5. Yep.
So hell yeah, we're back here. Cool. Mark and I are gonna have fun with this. I again really enjoy David Tennant in here as the robot. I think he's great. The humor level is working really well for me because as they're getting closer, steady, and then scan complete, and the whole ship's electricity instantly goes out. That kind of stuff was working really well for me. I did want to ask you though, Mark, when it comes to Ahsoka suiting up, going out on the craft, was that silly or was that cool to you?
First off, her outfit with her little, I call them booties, her little head protection thing was so cute. I was like, oh my God, she's wearing booties on her head. I know I've talked a little bit about sometimes she's Anakin. She has that arrogance, right? I
Mhm.
think I might have mentioned that earlier. She definitely is Anakin's apprentice. I gotta say, Anakin from Clone Wars, do you think he wouldn't walk out on the wing of a spaceship and jump out and kill a fighter? Of course he would. It's Anakin. He's a drama queen. We see later Vader remote flying his fighter down to go and fight Ezra, and the winds, there's no wind, but his cloak is billowing in the wind, right? We see him in a hallway corridor where he turns off his breathing support so he can turn on his lightsaber and terrorize everybody in Rebels. Anakin is a drama queen. That bit of Ahsoka, that was her Anakin. It really was. Let's walk out on a spaceship wing and kill something. And then, hey, now that I'm floating here, can you pick me up? That whole sequence was a lot of fun. Those four fighters coming in. I thought at first they might have been episode 3. General Grievous was trying to escape from Obi-Wan to a fighter. I thought it might have been the same fighter. It turns out it's not. They were very steampunk World War II looking fighters to me. I liked them.
Yeah, no, I loved him. I loved him.
But they were coming in and they were just raking Ahsoka's ship, and very little damage was happening. The Millennium Falcon, 2 TIE fighters going after Millennium Falcon, and things are melting, and R2-D2 is having to save 3PO. So her ship is very well constructed, has amazing shield generators. It looks like the only weapons it's got on it is a tail defensive weapon. The 2 females were arguing and stuff until finally Ahsoka just went, okay, tell me what to do. And then all of a sudden, kill, right there. They're doing a really good job as a team. My space combat, I was very happy. I got my Space Wars, and it was well done. Then after they blow up Stum, they go near the Scion, and the turbo lasers are shooting.
Yes.
And this is pure World War II movie, right? The flat guns are shooting while the aircraft comes in to do the bomb run. We've all seen this. And they're getting pounded, and the ship still has shields. And then there's a close enough hit to knock down their last 10%. That takes out the ship, knocking it out for a while, giving Ahsoka her chance to be Anakin.
Yes.
And I absolutely loved that. Hades' comment was, oh, let her know that she almost got him. I'm like, wow, there's some sass in that girl. That was awesome.
Major sass. I loved it.
But it was a fun sequence. It showed how good a pilot Ahsoka actually is. She was a fighter pilot in the Clone Wars. She was probably equal to Obi-Wan, and he was almost as good as Anakin. She was an excellent fighter pilot. You don't remember that much, right? She had a great teacher. It shows that Sabine has been fighting for years. She was a gunner on the Ghost for a long time. But yeah, walking out on a wing and killing a fighter, that's unbelievable. Anakin would have done that. Totally, he would have done that.
It worked for me, but I could definitely see how some people might be like, okay, that's pushing it a little far. But again,
the pilot
for me.
deserved to die. He was dumb.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go into the dude, you went within reach. But I think the common thread you're going to see in 3, 4, and 5 is how much Anakin is in her. Because you don't really see it in the animated show. You don't really see it as much in number 1 and number 2. But I think that's a huge thing, is that was a 100% Anakin move, right? And then we're going to get into the fight in the next episode. And then we're going to talk about 5. And it's all about how Anakin she is and isn't.
That's a good perspective to have on it.
Yeah, it's a little cheesy. But on the other hand, again, what else are you going to do? Just sit there and die? No.
Right.
You're going to go do something dumb, because what if it works? But then what? Join power. They end up doing an emergency landing. They almost run into the whales, which this is the second time we've seen them on the show. I think we saw them very faintly in the distance, Virgo. Yep. And then they crash land. And that was it. It was only, what, a half-hour episode?
Yeah, I think it was a 35-minute episode, because after they crash land, they take refuge in the forest. Yang gives a full analysis on the Scion that he finally has. So we then learn that it is classified as a hyperspace ring designed to travel to another galaxy, which is pretty cool. And then Haiti then becomes aware of their attempt to hide in the forest, which prompts Balin to dispatch his forces into the woods to hunt them down. Which again, we're going to spend even more time on the forest. Yay. Yeah, I was pretty locked in for this one. It definitely sets up episode 4. I was like, man, I gotta wait a whole other week to find out what happens.
Yep.
But again, I really am enjoying how it's basically a movie they're just cutting up for us in sequences to view. And I didn't view this episode as filler. I know it's a shorter episode, but it's definitely furthering the plot along in multiple ways, especially now that we look back on it after seeing episodes 4 and 5.
But it is short. First episode was almost an hour. Second episode was at least 40, 45 minutes. This one's 30. It was definitely short. But the action sequence really was, they had to get to the planet. And we had to know they were doing it on their own. And they made it to the planet, but they almost died multiple times. Yeah,
Yes.
makes sense. I do have a theory about some of the training, but we'll go into that a little bit in the next episode.
Before we dive into the next episode of Ahsoka, I did want to take a moment here and just share that the Cinema Club podcast is 100% supported by you, our listeners. If you are enjoying the show, and if you are wanting to support the show and continue to help it grow, please consider clicking the support button on our website. You can check that out at podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/cinema club. Thanks so much, and let's dive into the next episode. So, episode 4, called Fallen Jedi, pick up right where episode 3 left off. So, Ahsoka thinks about the implications of reaching Thrawn and Bridger, giving Ren pause since she remains determined to find her friend. Moments later, they are attacked by several of Balin's forces, but are able to dispatch them. Fearing that Elsbeth and Balin will acquire the coordinates to Thrawn's location, Ahsoka and Ren head to their base, but are in Marak.
Watching playing robot jocks or real steel, that HK droid was fun. Of course, he knows how to fight, but yeah, just him doing it. That was enjoyable. Watching Sabine gear up in her Mando gear, and the Quang asking for help, not being able to hear it, so he breaks the circuitry, alerting the people inside. So then we have them hop out, and Sabine and Ahsoka are just terrors. They work so well together. And Sabine's been working with Jedi for a very long time, but this is why I don't think Sabine is being trained to be a Jedi. Everybody knows she doesn't have the Force, right?
Right.
She's being trained to be Ezra's partner, because that's her entire training. Is she works with Jedi. She's a badass. She's scary, but she understands how to fight like a Jedi, which is going to make her even scarier as time goes on. I'm betting there's got to be at least another season of Ahsoka because of the buildup they're doing and the fact that it's one episode. There's 6.
8.
And
It'll be 8.
Oh, there's 8. Ooh, there might not be. I thought if it was 6, there's definitely going to be another season. Ouch.
Yeah, thank God we got at least 8. I was hoping for 10, especially where we're at now. But yeah, it's supposed to be 8. Hopefully they'll be sizable-ish lengths. But yeah, I'm definitely hoping for a second season because, like you said, just where these characters are going. Something that I didn't write in the synopsis was Hera deciding to take off against orders.
And our friend, the X-Wing pilot, the guy from
Carson
from Mandalorian showing up. There's a guy I like. Where did they find that actor? I don't know. I like him. I like his character.
Have you seen Mr. Kim's Convenience?
No, apparently I need to write that down and look it up. Mr. Kim's Convenience.
Yeah, I still haven't finished it, to be honest. I just throw it on every blue moon when I want to just go feel good 20-minute episode. But it basically takes place with this Asian immigrant family in Canada, and they run a little convenience store. And the actor that plays Carson, he plays Mr. Kim.
Okay.
So he's the shop owner. And yeah, no, it's really just fun, more laid back, very funny show. Definitely recommend it. That's the only place that I know this actor from. But yeah, Carson keeps popping up, which is cool. But this guy's like in every Star Wars Disney Plus show at this point. But it's okay. I enjoy him a lot. So I'm all right with it.
Yeah, but it's random. Oh, look, you get pulled over by a cop. Oh, look, it's the Carson cop. It's okay. Oh, look, the Carson cop pulls you over again and says, okay, have a good day. And now the Carson cop's actually helping you. Wait, what? It's enjoyable.
It is. It's a fun little nod, I feel, to us as an audience. Like, oh, thank you for watching all the Star Wars Universe Disney Plus shows. I found it slightly hilarious. I don't know if you noticed this, but with the promo posters for all the characters in the show, it totally recycled one of his previous posters and just put a different background behind him. So it's the exact same pose and everything. Same outfit. It's
not like he changes his outfit. He's in his flight suit.
He's in his flight suit forever. So we're just going to rock with that picture we have of him.
He's a delight. He's an absolute delight. But I like the fact that he's willing to go ahead and run away with a famous general. And help her out because she needs help. And that he's already getting on the fringe because of what was happening in Mandalorian. He went out and went and hunted down the Mandalorians completely on his own without orders because it was the right thing to do.
I'm also enjoying that we're getting to see Hera spend time with her son Jason a little bit
Yep.
more.
More Chopper.
More Chopper, yes. Because when we saw Jason initially in episode 3, I was like, "Oh, that's cool. We'll probably never see him again." And he's actually playing a role in this series now, which is pretty cool. Again, loved the visuals of this planet with the gray and the red hues, especially in contrast with Ahsoka's white blades. That was really working for me on a visual level. But even that little skirmish 60-second fight that occurs outside of the ship, Ahsoka's kind of a badass there. She's using the Force to block other people's laser bullets, throwing bodies at people. I
Yep.
was like, okay, I like this.
Taking track of her teammate, making sure her teammate's doing well. Her teammate's doing the same exact thing. Again, Sabine's had years of fighting with Jedi, and she's been trained by Jedi too, obviously. Even during Rebels, she was training with the Jedi. Sabine's a badass, and it shows how rusty she was when she got stabbed,
Yeah.
obviously. But we're going to talk about fighting styles here in a minute.
Yes. Ahsoka kills Marok and continues on alone, while Ren stays behind to hold off Haiti, who realizes that Ren cannot wield the Force. Ahsoka reaches Balin, and the two engage in a duel. Ahsoka is able to retrieve the map, but she tosses it aside after it burns her hand. Balin overpowers and sends Ahsoka plummeting into the ocean. I really enjoyed the samurai aspect, 'cause I feel this entire series definitely plays into the samurai mindset or movie mindset, I guess. I've especially been more inclined to think that because I have started the video game Ghost of Toshima. Absolutely loving that game. So I'm already in that mode. And then Ahsoka kills Marok with that one slice while Marok is whirling his double-bladed saber around. Definitely some samurai inspiration.
The fight where the two apprentices pair off, Haiti and Sabine, that was a good fight. And Sabine's using her gun. She's being a Mandalorian. When she has to, she ends up pulling out her saber and fighting. And she doesn't do poorly. Her little trick on throwing her hand forward when she got her butt kicked and Haiti flinching away, that was funny. It made me happy. And then shooting her lightsaber out of her hand, and then the Batman trick for Haiti to escape. That was all fun. It was good. It was a nice fight. They're really about equal ability and capability. Obviously, Haiti's got more Force power, but Sabine's got years and years more experience. And she's a Mandalorian with all the training and everything. The Martok and Ahsoka fight, I'm not surprised in any way how that fight went. She's killed Inquisitors before. She's fought Inquisitors forever and ever. It was very much a callback to how the Darth Maul and Obi-Wan fight ended in Rebels, where you have a double-handed lightsaber guy do the jump towards, and you have that classic samurai movie slice, and then the bad guy takes 3 more steps and falls in half kind of a thing. That was exactly what I expected. I did not expect Martok to be a ghost.
Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere for me, honestly. But I'm also like, oh, okay. I don't know how you feel.
So the Night Witches always did weird Force ghost things and undead stuff. So that it doesn't surprise me that her personal Inquisitors that she acquired was an undead monstrosity. And Tales of the Jedi, it was a whole bunch of shorts. Ahsoka post Order 66 ended up fighting an Inquisitor. That's where she gets her crystals for her lightsaber, her kyber crystals. She kills him and he does that.
Oh.
So it's not the first time that you've seen it. But if you're not obsessive compulsive and watched everything, you would never know.
I am, but I don't even remember it. So
yeah,
I already watched it now.
Did you see the Tales of the Jedi? Those ones?
Yeah,
those are good. Those are fun.
I enjoyed Ahsoka as a baby episode. And the Count Dooku episode was really cool. Yeah, I just don't remember that one for some reason. I gotta rewatch it.
There's an Inquisitor. He's got a really cool Plague Doctor mask. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I'm going to do the mask. And he dies like a chump. And I'm like, and no, I'm not.
Never mind.
All right. Sorry, you're going along on this ride. Here we go. Their fight choreographer is absolutely amazing. All right. Here's why. You have 5 individuals. You have 5 entirely different fighting styles. Marok is doing, it's based off of Maul's movements, but it's the Inquisitor that's been animated. Okay. Haiti is basically using European saber for most of her fight. Okay. Ahsoka is doing pure single sword samurai. Maybe a little bit of Chinese. I cannot remember the exact, but it's samurai, right? And then you have Sabine doing the fighting style that is, I'm going to be honest, that's what my fighting style was. I know enough that I'm dangerous to everybody that's not a master, right? She's good. She knows how to fight. She has a clue. She's not a Jedi and she's not a Sith. She's not whatever they are. She's not at that level, but
Sure.
she's a good fighter. She could take out anybody below that level, and she's never going to get past that level. When you have Balin, though, he is pure 15th century German longsword. His stances, his moves, grabbing Ahsoka's arm and throwing her. Dude, I found a woodcut of that move. I hit up one of my friends, Bill Lewis. We both learned SCA rapier years ago, and he continued on, and he actually did woodcut studying and studied masters while I went off and did me.
Okay.
He has a lot of information about fighting, especially period fighting styles. And some of the people I
Cool.
knew used to write books about period fighting styles, and he was my source for that. You have 5 distinct fighting styles, and their choreographer managed to make all of those fights work together. Never in the real world would you see a samurai fighting a 15th century German longsword, but they made it work, right? That just
So
speaks
well.
highly of the choreography group, just amazingly well. We got amazing lightsaber battles. We got lightsaber battles that we've never seen before, right? Balin is doing correct guards and blocks, and you can see him pulling the blade in front of where it needs to go before the shot's even off. I think Balin is psychic, legitimately psychic. And we can go into that a little bit more, but he has got his blade in the way and then the shot hits it. It's not a wild swing that catches the shot. His blade is in the way before the trigger's pulled.
I think when he's talking to her, he's so in tune with the Force. That might be exactly what you're referring to, Mark.
Yeah.
That's giving him that ability to anticipate ahead of time, so much so that he's already in place for the shot to be blocked.
Yes. Kudos to the choreography. I just want to point out just how absolutely amazing the choreography is for this episode. It is pristine. We're going to go into the choreography a little bit for number 5, but it is amazing. The people worked so well in this, and they did a good job. The fights looked good. The fights looked desperate.
Mhm.
There were a couple scenes where you don't aim at somebody's ankle when you're trying to cut them off their knee, but in general, the choreography is just amazing. Balin as a character is interesting. He didn't want to fight Ahsoka. Okay. But when he fights, he very much seems like he's a very angry person because he's talking about how all she has is this heredity of destruction and all she knows is how to destroy. And that's what her master was. And it seems much at odds to where he was earlier. And that's one of the reasons why I think he's psychic. He found her weak point. Remember, she hopped out on the wing of a spaceship to kill a fighter, which is exactly what Anakin would have done. She is Anakin's student. And he's found that she has concerns because, come on, man, your teacher ends up being the second evilest person in the galaxy. A big deal, and it hurts your self-confidence a lot. So he's found that, he's picking it, and his fight is very much heavy, stompy, German fighting. It's great. It's amazing. Hers is single sword, which is a little surprising because most of the time she was pulling out 2 swords previously, but it is classic samurai, and it looks great. And it's a good fight between the two of them. And you get to see her doing some moves, some flips, and some jumps. It's a good time had by all, honestly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know when you just mentioned that she's only fighting with one blade, I definitely was noticing that as well. And I guess what I chalked it up to be is that since Balin's fighting style is so heavy and harsh, maybe she thought that she had to adopt her fighting style a little bit to go with the one blade.
Yeah, because she used 2 blades in her first fight against Martok. She used 1 in the second fight. And I think there's also a bit of a script element on there. If you've got 2 swords and you're trying to grab the rock, what do you do with the extra sword? If the extra sword's never in your hand, you don't have to worry about it from a script point of view. So there might have been
That's true.
that done just to make the story flow because where's that lightsaber going?
Which, yeah, I loved both the apprentices and their fight and Balin and Ahsoka's fight emotionally as well. The actors were doing such a great job of just pulling it, honestly.
Yeah.
I was glued to the television. And then, again, going into more of the visual aspect, I loved Sabine's green saber in the dark forest and then the red coming in there. Oh, it honestly was one of the best Star Wars episodes, I think, up until episode 5 that I'd seen in quite a while. I made a note. This is the best Star Wars episode I've seen maybe ever in Disney television.
Even the lightsabers all had distinct sounds. When they hit, depending on where the blades were touching each other, they made different noises. It seemed to be more guttural, more darker as they were closer to the cross guards to each other, while out near the tips, it seemed a little bit lighter. So much
So
good
many
work on this
details.
one. Yeah, so much good work.
was totally sucked into the whole fight sequences. And I also love how Ahsoka just happens upon Balin just sitting there on the rock with his hood up, with his hoodie. I was like, that's
I'm going to say,
gangster.
though, I called it. I totally called it.
You did.
Your
I made a
master
note of it
talked
too.
a bunch about you. Funny, he never mentioned you. I'm like, there we go. That's the sass. That is the sass.
I was watching this show and I was like, oh my God, Mark totally called it. Yeah, because Balin says, Anakin spoke highly of you. And Ahsoka says, interesting. He never mentioned you. And you
Yep.
totally called it. So major kudos. That was
But
awesome.
that is good old Ahsoka sass right there. That is
Mhm.
good old Ahsoka sass because she was just as sassy as Sky Guy was. And it was nice to see that.
Going back into what you were hypothesizing about earlier about Balin potentially being a little bit of a psychic and or potentially extremely tuned into the Force. When he says that to Ahsoka, I think it can be potentially interpreted that he is trying to get into Ahsoka's headspace even before anything else goes down. Because as I think we see more clearly, he definitely does that with Sabine. But that is something that I was like, oh, maybe he didn't actually know Anakin that well, and he's just getting
Common.
inside of her head.
Everybody at the temple knew him. All right. Oh, look, it's the chosen one. Think about who didn't know Harry Potter, right? At Hogwarts.
Right.
And when you have Qui-Gon, a former master, going, this guy's the chosen one, of course it's going to get out how powerful he is and how good he is, and how quickly he learns. He started late. He was twice the age he should have been when he started training.
Yeah.
And he's better than everybody. In fact, he's so good that he gets called from across the galaxy to save the Chancellor when there's a room full of Jedi Masters hiding out. He is, quite honestly, the best fighter they've got. So, of course,
Yeah.
everybody knew Anakin. And, of course, everybody knew who his apprentice was.
But
So-
he may not have known Anakin that well. potentially.
Right.
Yeah. Because, yeah, like you're saying, especially during the Clone Wars, Anakin was renowned as being one of the top generals. I also really enjoyed the detail about how Ahsoka didn't take off her cloak for her rock one-on-one.
They dropped the cloak because now it's a
But
real
they dropped the
fight.
cloaks. Yeah, it's a real deal now. I'll take the cloak off. And then just the saber fighting with the holographic map as a background.
Mhm.
Again,
That's gorgeous.
visually, stunning. I loved it.
Remember how you were talking about them not using that one room for some stuff? I can't remember what
Yes.
it is. That was obviously 100% done inside of that studio.
Yes, I thought the stage worked fantastic. This is how to use it, in my opinion. Like, even though I know they're using it, it's not popping out to me. This was like, okay, they're using it and it's working. Amazing. No, excellent point.
That was a good fight. Another point. In a lot of fighting, especially German style, there are times, depending on your weapon, that you will grab your own blade and use it in different ways. Now, obviously, Ahsoka had burned her hand and she wasn't able to, but that whole force push with her other blade, that again calls back to the fact that they're using a lot more than just their traditional Jedi fighting styles that we've seen on screen. They're actually taking real world fighting styles and incorporating it. I know I've gone off on it a lot, but dude, their choreography team is amazing.
Everything about this episode just hit for me. The quality of the shots, the lighting, just the filming, the dialogue even seemed, I know there's less dialogue in this episode, but the dialogue that we did get definitely seemed elevated compared to, let's say, episode 3. The whole episode was emotionally charged content. It was perfection just served up on the screen on full display.
And I think it's really good on Balin because you see him so calm and reserved so much. In this fight, he looks mad, he's stompy and or grunty, just huge hits. A very big character change, but you can see how it can all be one person. It's not like all of a sudden he's dancing and playing the flutes when he really is supposed to be angry. He is a big, huge, angry man. And I enjoy the depth on that character again. I'm just sad we're not going to get season or more of this gentleman due to the actor's passing, but I absolutely love this character. We get the bit where Haiti shows up and just the devastation on Ahsoka's face. And then you see another Anakin moment. Grab her by the neck and throw her head first into a rock.
I was like, damn.
There's a little bit of anger in that young lady. Yeah, Ahsoka definitely had her toss and throw. And then Balin just looking so pissed. You just watched your apprentice get rammed head first into a rock wall. You're going to be a little angry.
He uses the dark side because of that anger totally to take her down.
You could see how the red glow was hitting his face, and it's gorgeous. Great cinematography, great camera work. Then Sabine shows up, holds her gun to the thing. Don't do it. He knocks Ahsoka off the cliff, which is very dramatic because it looks like she could have died.
But we're like,
Right?
okay, it's Ahsoka, so
It's Ahsoka, right?
that's not happening. The
The
show's
show's
named
named
Ahsoka.
after. Exactly. Then you have that moment where he takes that deep breath, he calms himself and he centers himself, and he's instantly in her head. Now, obviously, he's done some research because he knew that Sabine was living where Ezra lived, right? That's why I'm saying he's psychic. He knew too much about Sabine and her family and everything. He was pulling that out of her mind because there's no way you would have bothered learning that much about some random Mandalorian that hung out with somebody that used to hang out with somebody. The thing.
No, I think you're spot on. And going back to Balin's character, it just makes me sad that Ray Stevenson isn't getting to see how the Star Wars community is absolutely loving his Balin character.
Yeah.
Definitely such a tragedy just not getting to see it because he really is, I feel like, one of the coolest villains not named Palpatine or Vader, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
He just did such an amazing job in the limited screen time that we've seen of his character. And I just think it's just such a sad thing that he's not getting to see that everyone has really embraced his character on screen.
Funny side note about his costume. Apparently, the actual color of his costume is dark green and medium gray, but the filters they're running makes him look grayish black. So it's actually one of those funny things that with the filters that they and the way they're pushing the colors in the film is definitely changing the way some of the costumes look.
Yeah, that's major. That's pretty cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, one of my friends got to see the costume. They got photos of it. His thing is green, dude. It is unarguably green. But
I'll have to check that out online or something. Yeah.
It goes farther and messing around with colors to get what you want on screen. Going back to Empire Strikes Back, what color is Han's jacket? It's blue, right? On Hoth, it's brown. But they run the blue filter so
the
heavily.
toys are brown. Some of the toys.
First generation toys were brown because they did it off of it and it looked wrong, so nobody wanted to buy them, so they redid them blue.
That's wild.
Which for costume groups is funny because you can actually do it brown or blue.
Oh,
because,
sure.
Right? But costume-wise, again, everything looks amazing. They're able to move in their costumes. They're able to fight in their costumes. Sabine running around in her armor. She's able to move and fight in her armor. They've done a very good job, again, with costumes, because I know this is one of my things that I always like pointing out is how amazing the costumes are. This episode has everything for me. You got character development. You got arc. You got amazing characters. You have amazing choreography. You have great costumes. And the sets are absolutely amazing. The fights in the trees, Haiti cutting down trees. What a great episode. But again, half hour.
Was it a half hour? Man, it flew by then.
I think it was like 36 minutes.
Wow. No, I was totally sucked in. I wanted more. But yeah, to wrap up, as you were mentioning, Ren holds the map at gunpoint, but Balin manipulates her into handing it over by promising that she will see Bridger again. After Thrawn's location is revealed, Balin destroys the map to ensure they aren't followed and boards the Eye of Sion with Haiti and Ren as their prisoner. A squadron of New Republic fighters led by Syndulla arrives at Satos and tries, but fails to stop the Eye of Sion from jumping into hyperspace. Meanwhile, Ahsoka awakens in the world between worlds where she is met by her former master, Anakin Skywalker. I was going to ask you about Sabine handing over the map. What were your thoughts around that? Because I was a little surprised, but then I get at the same time, Ezra's all she's really got besides her one friend trying to come rescue her. Forgot about her. Other than that,
but she didn't know. She didn't know Hera was on the way, right? If she'd known Hera was on the way, it might have happened a little bit differently, right? But she had just seen her only other combat-capable friend get killed, right? And there's the chick who kicked your butt, and there's the guy that killed the strongest Jedi.
The only Jedi,
the only Jedi. And he did emotionally manipulate her. And you'd asked me this on the first podcast, is you're my sister? I'm like, nah, dude, nah.
Right. There's a little bit more going on there.
There's more going on there, right? I love my sister. And when she listens to this, she's going to give me crap. I'm not going to go chasing off across the galaxy to rescue her. She's on her own. She's an adult. She's got this. My wife's different. So yeah, I'm not surprised. Obviously, she had to make that choice for everything to happen the way it did. But
sure,
from her point of view at that time, it was the only decision she could make and not just die. And who knows what all gear she's got on her kit. Next episode, she might be doing the crawling through the air ducts, taking over the ship herself. But yeah, she had to. There was no other option because Her goals are not Ahsoka's goals, are not Hera's goals.
Ahsoka asks Sabine before they get out of that ship on the planet, like, can I trust you? Can I fully rely on you? Something along those lines. And then that happens. But Ahsoka's coming from a different perspective now, so that'll be interesting, of course. But yeah, I was just curious because obviously you're a big Rebels fan. Does that fall in line with Sabine's character or does it not?
So Sabine was in the Imperial Academy and she was making weapons for the Empire before she ran away when
That's
she
right.
was a kid,
Yeah.
right? She
Hmm.
created a sonic weapon that basically was tuned for Beskar and would kill the bearer that they redid for the plasteel that stormtroopers wear. Okay. She's fucking brilliant, right? There's no other way to put it. She's brilliant. She's an artist. She very much has her own independence, right? She's willing to go and drop everything to go rescue a brother or parents or whatever. But on the other
Hmm.
hand, she's not willing to stay on Mandalore because Mandalore sucks. And
Facts.
and considering the end of when Ahsoka was there, Order 66 happened, Empire never left. They showed up as the Republic and they did not leave Mandalore. Mandalore was occupied from then on out.
Yeah.
And we've at least in background towards some of the shenanigans that happened to the point where Mandalore was glassed from orbit. All right. So it's a good thing she wasn't there. So I'm not surprised she did it. I got to be honest, if I was in the exact same circumstances, I would have done it as well. There's no way she was winning against those two. There was no way
No.
she was going to win. And it's either I shoot this and die and nobody rescues Ezra, or at least I get to go along for the ride.
That's mostly how I was viewing the circumstance and a decision as well.
And we don't know that a single blaster shot would have. He stabbed it with a lightsaber and held it there for a while.
Yeah. Maybe he knew that the whole time. He's okay, yeah, shoot
Oh.
it, whatever.
And if she'd shot it, he would have immediately just thrown her into the forest. So no, she did not have a choice. She made the choice that was correct for the character.
Sounds good.
I think it's great that we see the X-Wings. I think the chaos, the Eye of Sion doesn't even care about them. It just goes over them. That was hysterical. How powerful the hyperdrive is and the fact that it left a wake behind it. That's cool. You don't ever see that.
No, the actual powerful hyperspace jump that literally tore space apart a little bit there.
Yep. Caused
Super
two
cool.
X-Wings to crash into each other. They lost 2 pilots on that for an unauthorized mission. Dead.
That's a valid point there.
We lost Bob and James. What else were we going to do? But you have that crescendo. It's the middle act. The evil has won. What happens to the good guys? This is a standard way of pacing films and
Mhm.
plays. Good's a little triumphant. Evil wins, and then we usually get the good winning at the end. So it's pretty much right on par for where it should be story-wise and arc-wise.
I agree.
Special effects, again, are amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, even that shot of Balin destroying the map, that was visually so cool. There's just so many little things that I could pick out that I just loved. Like I was saying earlier, this was my absolute favorite Star Wars episode of live action TV that we've gotten. It was just so tightly knit and executed to a T. And it felt, at least to me, like an extension of the movies, honestly, which I loved. And I think it's just because it was performed at such a high level, in my opinion, of course.
I agree with you. One fun thing about some dumb Star Wars lightsaber lore, there's always been discussion if it's a single thick round beam, is it a flat blade, or is it just a single, like a car antenna blade? The way that the map cut, it cut in half, which implies that a lightsaber is actually a flat blade, but it's so darn powerful and glowy that you can't tell it's a flat blade because it didn't cut a hole through it. It cut it flat evenly in half.
Right.
So that's just a dumb, fun Star Wars thing because there's been debate. What is a lightsaber actually? Is there a flat to it? Does it matter because it's 1,000 degrees if there's a flat? Or is there an actual blade to it? That kind of implies there's a blade to it.
It is an interesting thought because even in the various animated series, we've sometimes seen the blades portrayed a little bit differently with Star Wars Visions. We see a lot of different interpretations of Star Wars blades. And so that's a great point that you bring up here that when Balin did cut the map, it cut it directly in half. Any other thoughts on episode 4? I honestly loved it. I thought it was an excellent episode.
I wanted twice as much. That's as good a recommendation as you can say. I wanted more fights. I wanted more of the entire episode.
And at the very end, we see Anakin in the World Between Worlds. And that was definitely something that I was curious if the Ahsoka series was going to explore, because I know watching the Rebels series that it definitely was a very new concept, but a very exciting one. But I was like, are they going to introduce this correctly or is it going to be hokey? Which I
I,
think it works okay. But I definitely have questions for you when it comes to this world between worlds because I'm not as familiar with it as I believe you are. So I think you can definitely shed some light on it and what it exactly is as well.
I want to say it's only in 2 episodes I know it's in 1 episode, obviously, in Rebels, but I think it's actually referenced twice in Rebels. But I also think we're referencing back to in Clone Wars, Mortis
Mhm.
with the father, the daughter, and the son, which again is also
Okay,
part
yes.
of. And I thought, and I was proven wrong in episode 5, I thought that she was going to basically have her little kumbaya moment with Anakin in episode 5 and then use the world between worlds to get herself to the end point. That's what I thought was
Mhm.
going to happen because we know it's space time. Ezra falls into it. He goes to a completely other planet and rescues Ahsoka from certain death against Vader in the episode where they
Yeah.
do it in Rebels. He almost goes to a completely other place to rescue Kanan. And then, of course, the Emperor at one point is almost able to gain access and is throwing flame through there. So you can travel between worlds and times. And I think they had exactly enough amount in episode 5 of the World Between Worlds to explain what it is without actually telling us what it is. Because it does deal with times and places and worlds, and it's not our dimension, our continuum, it's something outside of it. And whoever made it is a horribly irresponsible person for giving the potential of anybody being able to abuse that. Horribly irresponsible. One thing which I always watch shows with the subtitles on so I can actually see
Mm.
what's being spoken. That final scene where we see Anakin, if you have the subtitles on, the music will say Vader music.
I definitely wrote down what it sounded like. I can't remember the name
Yeah.
of his music, but yeah, it
It's not the
sounded
Imperial March, but Vader's,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it did be there for a minute. And I could have sworn that his lightsaber was black because Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker was silver with black accents.
Yes.
Vader's was almost the same exact design, solid black. So when
Okay.
I was watching it, it looked like Vader and it says Vader's music. I was like, ooh, I was excited. But yeah, the kid and I watched it together. We were talking about all the fighting and that happened. It was like, I don't think that's Anakin. It's just fun. Oh,
Oh
it's
yeah,
Vader.
no, it was a
Yeah.
great little cliffhanger to next
Cliffhanger.
week.
Yeah.
Let's dive into it. So, episode 5, titled Shadow Warrior. While investigating Ahsoka's disappearance along with his mother, Jason Syndulla senses that Ahsoka is in the world between worlds, revealing his own connection with the Force. Anakin explains to Ahsoka that he had been watching her through the Force and deduces that her loss with Balin is partially due to her unresolved guilt over the events that drove them apart. Anakin explains that she's here to finish her training, partially, the lesson of whether to live or die. He draws his lightsaber and they duel.
Okay, so when you see the two of them fighting, it is classic Anakin Clone Wars fighting. And that's where they start. And she's got her two swords and she's doing classic animated fighting style. When they fight later, I know I'm skipping ahead, he is fighting like Balin's skull. He even does a
Okay.
grapple. He even does the big, huge stompy hits. He's much more Vader-like in his attack at the end of it. Again, showing excellent choreography, showing excellent fighting, and showing the change in the characters and that whatever she's getting out of the world between worlds, she's getting what she needs.
I
Okay.
hadn't thought about that. That's spot on though.
But yeah, his fighting style completely changed from Clone Wars Anakin to stompy Sith Lord. And I like that and I appreciated that. But as for her, they have a fight. She ends up kicking him in the face, which was really hysterical. He cuts the light bridge and she falls into memory.
Yeah,
Right.
well, and speaking of the choreography, I really liked that they had, I guess I would call it classic Anakin lightsaber twirl. I was like, "Ooh, okay, I haven't seen that in a minute. That's cool to see." All
They
right.
both do the block we jokingly call the Anakin block. Both of them do an Anakin block at one point, and that is again classic Anakin. The first fight was very much Clone Wars Anakin, movie Anakin fighting, and I really appreciated that they had such a great callback to that style of fighting.
100%. Backing up to, I really liked the waves slash lightsaber sounds. I thought that was a super interesting, unique way to introduce that Jason was privy to what was doing, but then also move along the plot to why they're searching and where they're searching for Ahsoka. Also, I wanted to mention this episode was also offered in some theaters to watch, which unfortunately I did check and there wasn't anything near Arizona. But I thought that was really cool, and it definitely got me excited for the episode, knowing that they were so confident in the episode that they're like, "All right, let's throw it in some theaters."
I wonder what it would have sounded like under a theater sound system. That'd have been amazing.
But it would definitely have been a memorable experience for sure. Well, we're going off on money trails. I did have the thought process that as long as Jason stays clear of Luke's academy, he should be okay.
So my son and I are watching. I said, "So do you think he was a studio at Luke's Academy?" He's probably why. I said, "Do you think he was there when Ren was there?" And he said, was so angry with me for bringing that up. Yeah, hopefully he didn't. He might have an Ahsoka to teach him or an Ezra to teach him. Hopefully he wasn't there. But yeah, he would have been the right age to be at Luke's Academy right about the time Kylo Ren shows up.
Yeah, I was like, okay, end of Ahsoka ends with Jason being introduced to
Young Ben Solo.
Yeah, and here's Ben Solo. You're gonna spend some time with him.
Oh, that would be horrible.
That was just
one thing.
intrusive thoughts I had while watching.
Hey, you weren't the only one. I was like, about the timing would be just about right.
Yeah,
One thing which
yeah.
we did skip though was Huang, and the ship lands.
Yeah.
Hera and Jason come off. They hear the noise. Jason hides behind the murder bot, just pointing that out, that apparently Chopper is good with kids and will keep them alive no matter what. But Huang standing there
True.
holding the helmet and saying they didn't listen, they never listened. And that's actually something really important. He's at least 500 odd years old. He lived through the Clone Wars, Order 66, and all that stuff. How much tragedy has that android seen in his life?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that in that regard. I definitely knew he'd been around for a few hundred years, but I hadn't thought of the PTSD he probably has.
I think he might be alive as long as the old Republic, like the old
okay.
Republic. I don't know if that was 500 years ago, but he's been around a very long time. Again, just how much trauma and loss and death, and the fact that you tell two people stick together no matter what, just made me sad.
I keep saying it, but it just really is a cut up movie.
Yeah.
And I like that we're getting that direct callback to the previous episode where the one thing he told them was to stick together, and they said they would. And now he's mourning the fact that Sabine and Ahsoka didn't stick together. And then for audience members that haven't watched Rebels, we get that information drop that, oh yeah, Jason's dad was a Jedi, and that's why he has his abilities.
Which you can see Jason's wearing one of Kanan's shoulder armor pieces on his jacket. I hadn't noticed that before, and I
good
noticed
Easter
that in
egg.
this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Still want his hair brighter green. But no, he's cool. He's young. He's force sensitive. We know he's going to be force sensitive. We know his father he survived Order 66, so he's going to be a Jedi, right?
He said he wants to be.
He wants to be, yeah. And yeah, it's not surprising that a force sensitive felt something really weird right in the location where Ahsoka disappeared.
I do like that we get that info dump, and then Carson is basically all the audience members that haven't watched Rebel. She's like, oh, okay. But moving forward here through the episodes, like you were mentioning, at one point, Anakin breaks the ground Ahsoka is standing on, sending her crashing down into a flashback of their time in the Clone Wars, and lands as a younger version of herself right in the middle of the Clone Wars. More specifically, during one of her very first missions alongside Anakin. Ahsoka asks Anakin why they were sent on this mission, but he refuses to answer. They run in through the battle, and Ahsoka later sees wounded stormtroopers, crying over how many were lost and blaming herself for it. Anakin tries to turn it into a teachable moment, but Ahsoka is hesitant. Anakin and the troopers run into battle, and Ahsoka very briefly sees a vision of Vader marching into battle.
All right. I have opinions on this moment.
Okay, I'm interested to hear them.
To the best that I can figure, and this is Help with the Kid and pointing out a lot of really good things, that battle is the second battle of Geonosis. Okay. The reason why is the clone troopers are running around in phase 1 armor, which they got rid of pretty much after this battle was the last time they wore phase 1 armor. But Ahsoka is wearing her season 3 outfit. She's not wearing the tube top. Thank God she's not wearing the tube top.
Yeah.
So there was a moment of confusion because Ahsoka in the animated series in that outfit with phase 1 clone troopers, and we never did. Okay. It actually took another run through it, looking through other episodes, double checking what the kid thought was right. Kid is right. Got to just trust the kid sometimes. Cypher knows what he's talking about. His brain is less full of junk than mine is, I think, at this point. It's why he remembers these things.
Yeah.
But I have a great pool of useless trivia. So we've placed it to probably being the second battle of Geonosis. She almost died multiple times in that. She also made a friend who the friend eventually betrayed her, and that's why she left the
Right.
Jedi
Okay.
temple. A lot of things happened to this young lady at this particular period of time. And I think that flashing scene of Vader walking into the distance, maybe they're implying that was the point when he stopped being 100% Anakin and started going down the dark side. But I also don't remember a bunch of Twi'lek scouts running around in that episode. And there's a couple things where my brain's going, I'm not sure if it's this or that, but to the best of my knowledge, that's the second battle of Geonosis. And I like the fact that she goes and she's comforting a wounded clone trooper, burns on his face so we don't see his face, and he reaches over and touches her. You actually get to see Rex in the distance, Captain Rex. So that was cool. You hear his voice, his clone voice. So again, we're going into this whole thing where in episode 3, she did a stupid Anakin thing. Okay, in episode 4, he's telling her that she is a copy of Anakin just waiting to happen. And now she's having that existential crisis in episode 5. That tiny little arc, those 3 things, when you actually look at them connected together, yeah, she's afraid she's going to be a Vader because it's there. Doesn't matter that Qui-Gon wasn't a Vader. Doesn't matter that Obi-Wan wasn't a Vader. Anakin was a Vader. I think she's worried about that.
Yeah.
And when you have a big, huge, scary guy pointing out that all your legacy is destruction, and then you have your master pointing out that, hey, you're just as good a Jedi as I am, and you have all the knowledge from all these people, it's scary.
No, definitely. And just the whole Clone Wars flashback type of scene with a young Ahsoka.
Great actress, great job on her part.
Yes, absolutely. The role of young Ahsoka was played by Disney veteran Ariana Greenblatt, which, interesting information in case anybody listening doesn't know, she played the child Gamora in Avengers Infinity War.
Oh,
yeah. And she's also enjoying a lot of success this year with the Barbie movie as well.
I still need
Because
to
she plays
watch
her daughter
that.
in there. I just watched it. I enjoyed
Still
it.
need to watch that.
But yeah, I thought that was an interesting way to have a flashback. Initially, I thought, oh, we're going to have current Ahsoka looking back on this. And that was not the case. I really enjoyed that decision. I also thought it was the second battle of Geonosis, which, if I remember correctly, was all about shutting down the droid factories. But yeah, it's like we're kind of seeing here, Ahsoka was not trained to be a soldier, but now has to become one. Also really enjoyed that we're seeing that Anakin's a lot more straightforward as a master than he was per se in the live action movies. And then yeah, like you mentioned, that flash between Anakin and Vader with the lightsabers as he's walking away from Ahsoka's perspective was really interesting. I really dig your interpretation that maybe that was when Anakin started to shift a bit in the Force, potentially.
In that arc of episodes in Clone Wars, Ahsoka and Barriss are buried, and he absolutely refuses to believe that they're dead, even though nobody can sense him. And he basically starts doing the whole excavation thing. And Luminari talks about sometime you have to let him go. And he's like, well, never. Again, you're seeing the growth of 2 people here, right? He's becoming what we know, and she's changing from what she's supposed to be to what she is. Not supposed to be a soldier.
And we're also seeing that Ahsoka has a chance to do better and that she can be more than their acts of war, just like Anakin had the chance. Let's go ahead and keep rolling here. So in another flashback, Ahsoka, Rex, and a number of troopers move through the siege of Mandalore. Anakin tells Ahsoka she's part of a legacy, but she still believes all she brings about is death and destruction. Anakin once again gives her the choice to live or die and duels with her with his red lightsaber. They move back to the world between worlds where Ahsoka wins, accepting that she wasn't part of the reason for Anakin's downfall and chooses to live. Anakin disappears and Ahsoka is transported back to the water she was drowning in.
I disagree with she isn't responsible in any way, shape, or form for him becoming who he is.
Okay.
He's responsible ultimately for what he chooses. He was left without support, right? She had left for very good reasons. Really, you're a senator and you're not getting prenatal care for your kids. Come on, we're just going to ignore that. Lucas did a lot of dumb in episode 3. Okay. Ahsoka was off living her life after the Jedi Order had fucked her over, right?
Yeah,
They
big time.
seriously had. she had to go figure out what she was because, again, she's not supposed to be a warrior. She's supposed to be a peacekeeper, right? She had to leave or she would have fallen, just like her friend Barris did, just like Anakin does, because the Jedi Order was so incompetent. They had 100 Jedi at one point, masters. And at the end of the movie, they had 10. And before Order 66, they had been bled dry of their best people. And that all through the Clone Wars episodes of Jedis just dying left and right everywhere. Heck, episode 2, how many Jedi died rescuing Anakin and Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where the Jedi Order was already dead at the end of episode 3. It was just the nails in the coffin that happened. And she would have died too if she hadn't been off doing other things. Immediately after this battle of during that, she defeats Maul. And she and Rex are transporting Maul back to Coruscant when Order 66 happens, giving her the opportunity to escape, save Rex, and fake her own death. Otherwise, do you honestly think Vader would not have spent the rest of his life hunting her down? He would have had to, right? Things work out for a reason, good stuff. I don't think she's responsible for him falling. If she had been there, may he not have fallen? Yeah, I think if she'd been there, he wouldn't have fallen. He would have had somebody he knows and loves and trusts slap him upside the head and say, don't be dumb. So that's why she had to be removed. And when the Jedi Order removes you from somebody's life, which is what they did, it's not your fault. Okay, so I don't think she was ever responsible. Yes, she would have been the safety release, to put it shorter.
I like that thought process for sure. I did want to say I really enjoyed seeing the little bit of live action Rex that we got because I've been wanting that for a while, to be honest. So that was really cool.
You know that they retconned it so that in Return of the Jedi, on the rebels that are on Endor, right as they're capturing the bunker and the scout comes around the corner chasing, there's a gray-haired man with a big, huge beard. That's Rex.
Oh, okay.
So according to official canon lore, Rex made it all the way to Return of the Jedi, the Battle of Endor.
That's cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, that was one of those dumb things. Yeah, we know he lived. So yeah, Rex is the best. And we want more of him.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed, too, that we got to see, 3 different versions of Anakin in this episode?
Yeah.
There's different haircuts, at least, I think, because we got to see in that initial flashback more of the typical Clone Wars animated show.
Early Clone Wars, and then late Clone Wars, because he wasn't at the Battle of Mandalore. He was off saving the Chancellor when that was happening.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And then, of course, you definitely get the Vader Anakin after she comes back from the flashbacks. That's 100% who he is.
And then we got that middle version in the beginning and end of the World Between Worlds as well. So yeah, really cool that we got to see some different versions of his character in live action.
A little disappointed on the de-aging. I'm going to be honest.
Were you?
At the end of the flashback sequence when you almost get this matrixy lights going down and, all this stuff.
Oh, yep.
The kid and I are cracking jokes that it's Tron Evolution. And he's a clue
Okay.
because Tron Evolution's amazing film. I absolutely love it. The special effects are unbeaten, right? But the de-aging effect was better than what they did for Anakin in this episode, to be honest. And that's sad because Tron came out over 10 years ago. I expected more when they de-aged Anakin, to be honest.
Episode 4 looked iffy, but then episode 5, for me, 90% of it, I didn't even think about it. So for me, it was totally fine.
Costume-wise, armor-wise, everything was outstanding again. You actually get to see Anakin's belt from the front and back and sides, which I can't remember ever being able to see that clearly. Ahsoka's character had 5 different costumes total in this episode because she has her initial fight clothing. She has the 2 in the flashbacks because they are different costumes.
Yep.
It's the red version and the gray version. Then you have her waking up in the bunk after she's rescued. And then you have her in an all-white costume, which is actually later in the episode.
That's true. I loved all of her outfits, honestly.
Yeah.
Super well done.
Even her headbands are different between all the characters. And timings. Lack of headbands.
Yes, or lack.
Outstanding costuming, great choreography, lightsabers, clone troopers. What more do you want?
I was going to say, too, seeing Ahsoka live action, it made me appreciate how young she really was. And to be having to go through all this shit to lead armies into battle. And I now, in retrospect, have a deeper appreciation for the fact that she defeated Darth Maul in combat at such a young age and was truly a powerful Jedi. So I really appreciate that different perspective of the live action, bringing that to the character and how that made me rethink the character a little bit differently as well. Something I wanted to ask you about, because the internet has been, we're recording this on a Wednesday. Obviously, the episode came out on Tuesday. Some of the internet has been talking about a lot, and it's something that I wanted to ask you about, Mark. In that end sequence when Dark Anakin is battling Ahsoka with his red saber, and then Ahsoka takes the blade and is right up in Anakin's grill, basically. We see, and it's up to interpretation. I've watched the scene like 15 times.
You want to know how much I watched the Balin Skull Ahsoka fight? Dude, I don't know. I think I watched it 20 times because I'm like, oh my God, he did this. So yeah, go for it.
Okay. We see Ahsoka's eyes appear to turn red for a brief moment while she's holding the lightsaber to Anakin. And both their eyes do have more of a Sith look to them, especially Anakin's, more of that orangish.
His yellow. His was straight
orange
up
yellow.
His yellow at the end of episode 3. That's what his eyes looked like before he went under the mask. Yes.
Yeah. We see a little bit of that for a second with Ahsoka. And some people have been like, oh, it's just the saber reflecting into her eyes. Other people say, no, if you watch it, it's more of the red and orange in there, which can be interpreted. Anakin did say, remember, all of me resides within you, to Ahsoka. And that very much could mean his anger and hate too. And that could be a visual representation. But along with that, I think we also see on Ahsoka's face some of the potential temptation or the subtle clenching of the jaw with the red lightsaber reflecting in her eyes. We see some of that anger or that brief hint of hate potentially. But again, I've watched it so many times. I can't say if it is just the reflection of the saber or if it is her having that little piece of the dark side flash for a second and then making the choice to not give in to that.
So I think there was a choice. She had the blade there, and you saw the look on her face, and it was almost, I forgot the actor's name. He played Mace Windu. Why can't I remember his name?
Samuel Jackson?
Yeah. You almost saw the motherfucker come out of her mouth, right? If she'd said it, we all would have been like, yeah, there he chops off his head. She had the moment. She had the chance, and she made the choice. She took the breath. She figured out this is not the way to do it. Come on, striking down your master with a red lightsaber, that's not a good move on the good evil scale. So I think if people want to say there was a moment of her having it, of course she did. Wouldn't you have?
Yeah, I definitely think that moment was there. And whether or not her eyes turned red because of the saber or not, she definitely had that moment where she felt the darkness and she didn't give in to it. Is at least what I'm taking away from the scene.
That is exactly what I feel. So way back in episode 1, Qui-Gon dies, and somehow this dude hanging by his fingertips over a chasm somehow jumps past the man who just killed Qui-Gon, obviously a badass sword fighter, right? Yes. Grabs a saber and chops him in half. And people were speculating then that Obi-Wan tapped into the dark side and used his fear and his anger and his grief to give him that boost to win. This is speculation. How many years ago was episode 1?
Early 2000s, yeah.
So that long ago we were speculating, and people are like, so is that the seed to Anakin's downfall? Because Obi-Wan is very prideful. I am going to teach him. I am going to do it. 7 deadly sins, right? Having that momentary flash, sure, it is a part of her legacy. It is a part of her life. Qui-Gon, he was taught by Dooku.
Yeah.
There's a whole line of fallen Jedi in this. So of course it's part of her, but she's choosing, I choose life. Choosing to live doesn't mean you got to kill the other guy. And I think that's an important thing, which I think is reflected. And all of a sudden her next outfit is white.
Yeah. And yes, the lesson of Anakin was imparted on Ahsoka since she didn't kill Anakin in the end. That's the big takeaway. And just before we go forward, I really enjoyed Hayden Christensen in the episode. I know we have come from different histories with Star Wars, which is so cool. But for me, Hayden Christensen, those Star Wars movies, those were the new things coming out at the time when I was still very young, right? I didn't really grow up with the opinion of disliking the character, which I know at the time, a lot of people were very critical of his performance of Anakin. So I just thought it was great that he came back.
Literally your equivalent of my Luke Skywalker.
Oh, that's true.
Nobody farm kid, nobody slave boy, learns from a Jedi master, has adventures, loses a hand.
Yes.
And then the redemption or the fall, right? Mark Hamill's one of the most wonderful human beings as far as I'm concerned because he brought a character to life. I mean, he did as a job, right? Yeah, that's what it was. And he never really went back into film because of, he was very much typecast. Christian Hayden's that equivalent for you. Of course, you're not going to have the same opinion. Was he a whiny teenage boy in episode 2? Yeah, he was a whiny teenage boy in episode 2. Guess what he was playing? A whiny teenage boy, right?
He
So
didn't have a director that was giving him a whole lot as well.
No. And I
his
think
defense.
with what they worked with, and they were also young actors. They're obviously better actors now. I think the positive experience of Kenobi definitely made him willing to do Ahsoka. So I am also happy showing up. And yeah, dude, it's awesome. I was thrilled when I actually saw Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker at the end of episode 7. All right. It can be the same thing for you, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
That's true. I'm just thankful we're living in the age where there's a ton of Star Wars content. I think you were talking about this too 2 weeks ago. Ton of cool Star Wars stuff out there. Some of it's not going to jive with you, but some of it really is. And what a time to be alive.
So after she wakes up, the Republic fleet shows up. Okay.
Yes.
Who sends 3 cruisers to pick up a Millennium Falcon knockoff and 5 X-Wings?
I love to think Thrawn's actually over there.
But
So
they were being
stupid.
recalled.
Overkill.
Oh, definitely overkill. This is, and I've said, I think it's something else is happening here that they're showing. Because in Mandalorian, they're showing the rise of the First Order.
Right.
Okay. It's very heavily implied. We've seen Hux's father showing up. We know that they're making, some people are trying to go for clone programs. Some people are trying to make super Mandalorian troopers. Okay, so that's that. These 3 episodes were showing the rise of the Resistance because you get a bunch of rebel fighters who are not a part of the Republic military that are out fighting against this mysterious Imperial remnants, while the New Republic is keeping its military at home and doing its own thing. Sure, some of the New Republic officers are sympathetic and helpful, and there's a reason why the Resistance is running around with brand new X-Wings. But I think that this 3 episodes is showing Hera leaves them.
Yeah.
She's stripped of her rank. She says, and she walks away because a general is being oversighted by the Congress. And she's being called to task in front of Congress because she and 5 ships went out to investigate something bad that you don't believe in. So I think you're going to end up with a lot of rebellion people going and forming the Resistance. We obviously know that Senator Organa, who was mentioned,
Yes. Very cool.
goes
that
and
she
becomes
was
General
mentioned.
Organa, right? This is one of those things where I think we're seeing the formation of the Resistance because of the New Republic's monolithic and being built on corrupt foundations.
Great point. I think you laid that out really well, Mark. And I am enjoying that they're sprinkling them in there, so to speak, in these shows so that it does actually tie in to the time frame that these are set in multiple ways. But yeah, hearing about Senator Organa, aka Princess Leia, was cool because we haven't really had much reference to her character in any of these shows. So it was nice.
So far for these shows, we've seen Luke Skywalker, we've seen Mon Martha, and we've been referred to Senator Organa, and that's it from many of the episodes 1 through 6. Those are the only people we hear of. Well, and Boba Fett, obviously, but those are the only people that should be alive running around that we are seeing.
Yes.
So that's cool.
Definitely. If I had to nitpick at one thing that I wish, just as a Star Wars fan, would have been a little bit different, was volume stage was definitely being used in those flashback sequences, which I think would have been fine. But I do wish that we got a better sense of scale instead of it all being shrouded in dust on the volume stage.
But I think you needed it to make it look like Dream Sequence.
You think so? I can definitely see that perspective. Because for me, I was like, oh man, I wish there's this huge battle happening.
Oh,
but
yeah, you want to see the huge battle happening.
That's just the other part of me. It's like, give me more. Again, a super small nitpick. Also, I know we ended with a synopsis that Ahsoka is taken out of the water. I really love the close-up shot of Ahsoka being submerged before she awakens in the depths of the Tito's Ocean. That was one of the coolest images the show has created so far, which is saying something. A cool tidbit is the actor who plays Mando in the suit in The Mandalorian was actually the pilot who pulls Ahsoka up on the ship out of the water.
Oh, that's
in this
awesome.
episode. Yeah,
That's
I thought that was
awesome.
a super cool little tidbit. So glad he actually got some screen time without a helmet on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see actors being able to be in other roles because everybody needs money.
Very true. Let me go ahead and dive into the rest of the synopsis.
Yeah.
So, Ahsoka is recovered from Syndulla's crew, but Syndulla is contacted by Mothma, who informs her that the New Republic forces are en route to take her and Ahsoka into custody. Just before they do, Ahsoka recruits a pod of Purrgil to take her to Ezra, while Syndulla stays behind. You were kind of mentioning it a little bit earlier,
Mhm.
but Ahsoka's new outfit, Ahsoka the White,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she definitely did a Gandalf, didn't she?
she did. It
Um,
worked really well for me.
Again, the costuming, it's outstanding. I've never seen her little cape shawl thing. It looks knit to me. I've never seen that kind of fabric used in Star Wars before, that cleanly on screen. So again, it's nice to see they're actually
Okay.
doing a few things that are not sci-fi weirdness.
I was digging the white, cozy looking outfit and just that whole rebirth, light, positive energy feeling that she now is moving forward with at the end of the episode. More of a guardian of the galaxy type of figure. Not to be
Where are we
confused with
going?
Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, but
Where are we going? I don't know. Is it better than just staying here? Yeah, it is. Come on, you sail your ship into a mouth of a space whale going, hey, can you take me to go see where you took my friend 20 years ago? Sure, why not? For your lunch, right?
Whole
There's
Pinocchio over here.
trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of Pinocchio. But yeah, it was cool. And it was nice seeing how big the Purgles are.
Yes. I had a concern that maybe they wouldn't look so cool in live action, but I was digging it. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
these look great. And I think it was because of that scale. There's a shot where right before the ship goes into the Purgil's mouth, it's on the screen side by side, and the ship is super tiny.
So there's the whale. There's a black dot. There's a slightly larger black dot. You realize that one is Hera, and that one's Ahsoka, and you're like, oh, that's big. If you took Ahsoka's ship and put it flat up against the eye of the whale, I think the eye was still bigger.
Oh, 100%.
They're massive. And seeing them go by those cruisers, the
Yeah.
fact that the big one was as big as one of those cruisers.
A little bit bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. And you saw the face of the captain. She's sitting there staring, and there goes a whale eye by her window. How insignificant would you feel as a human being? That's what people say when they go and they see whales out in the ocean. That living creature is bigger than your boat. You notice. So that
Yeah.
was really cool. That was fun. It was gorgeous, nice, not cliffhanger ending.
It was nice to take a breath.
Yes.
Again, going back to Ahsoka, I really did get the sense that Ahsoka feels that it's up to her to live and to shape what the Jedi will be, or at least what her Padawan will be. 'Cause I feel previously she was carrying that baggage of my master screwed up and went to the dark side, and their relationship obviously is what it is. And I think that's why she was not fully embracing Sabine as her apprentice or Padawan. So I think that may change a little bit. I think we got some inkling of that when she's staring down Sabine's helmet.
It also makes sense why she doesn't want to teach Grogu.
Excellent point. Yes.
You know, that might be one of the reasons why she gets Luke Skywalker for the job, is because Luke actually wants to have more Jedi popping up and showing up, but even he loses his first student.
Yeah.
Grogu's, I'd rather be a Mando. Screw you hippies. And obviously, Mandos can be whatever they want. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to next week. I don't want to wait. I want it now. And this is definitely a binge show. Right? You want to sit down, you want to watch 3 episodes, take a break and watch 3 more episodes. And I like that. Like you said, they took a really long movie and chopped it up into bite-sized chunks.
Yeah, I'll definitely be sitting down to rewatch the whole thing in a day or something when it's all released. Something I wanted to ask you about having to do with the world between worlds, just before I forget, is how are you viewing Anakin and his character? Are we viewing him as a keeper of the Force, or how are we viewing this version of Anakin?
I don't think it was Anakin.
I don't think it was Anakin.
I think it was the brother. Okay. So with the Clone Wars and they go to Mortis, there's the father, the daughter, and the brother. Okay. And at one point, Ahsoka's infected by the brother and she goes Sith. And it's great. She looks awesome. She's all creepy. It's great. The daughter is also that little white and green owl we keep seeing everywhere.
Yes.
Okay. Which we haven't seen in this show yet, which I was a little surprised by. That's besides the point. I don't think it was Anakin. I think it was a brother, because the brother's still part of the Force. He's the dark side, no argument, but he's
Okay.
still part of the Force. And the Force wants to be out there and used and existed. They want Jedi, they want Sith. The father tries to maintain the balance. The daughter wants her Jedi, the brother wants a Sith. But they're still
Okay.
there working together and counterpart of each other to exist. I think it was the brother. I don't think it was Anakin. It's just my thoughts.
Interesting. Maybe I'm totally off here, but I was thinking that this Anakin was now potentially the father and Ahsoka was the daughter.
That's been implied before because the father tried to give Anakin the job. No, the father tried to give Obi-Wan the job, didn't he?
I
I
can't
gotta
remember now.
rewatch those. And because the brother showed Anakin his future and the father wiped it out,
Okay, yes.
right?
Yes.
The brother was up to a lot of hijinks and exactly like you expect an angelic figure, a neutral figure, and the devil. Literally, he was playing the devil. I don't know. I don't want to read too much into it because I never understood why they actually did those episodes beyond just that there's something more to the Force and trying to make sure we knew that.
Yeah.
It
I
wasn't
feel ya.
so cut and dried, right? Jedi is a religion. Sith is a religion. What about the people that aren't religious? What are they?
Right.
Okay, so that's why you can't be a great Jedi. You can't be a Jedi, an atheist Christian.
Work.
You can't be the one if you're the other. And that's why I
Yeah.
think Gray Jedi doesn't work. But is Ahsoka gray? Yes. Is Baylan Skoll gray? Yes. He's dark gray. She's light gray. They're still gray. They're not Jedi. They have fallen from the religion.
Right. They're just
They're
great
not
characters. Yeah.
right. So that's why I don't like the term gray Jedi is because, but
Yeah. Yeah.
for lack of a better term, yeah, they're Force users, obviously.
Right.
But then we get into Ezra is able to open up a Sith holocron.
Yes.
Sith can open Sith holocrons, right? So obviously, we got a lot of great characters running around in here. They're not one or the other. Now, Ezra redeems himself, sacrifices himself, saves the planet, just little things, which is an incredibly good act. But he can open
True.
Sith holocrons.
So he's in tune to at least some of the dark side, which we do
Yeah.
see in
Yep.
the Rebels. Him walking that path
Right.
delicately. I guess.
Sometimes not, sometimes just going right through the wall. And I'm very curious to what kind of Ezra we're going to see in the future because
Yes.
it's been 10, 15 years. He's been stuck with Thrawn. And Thrawn's awesome. We love the character. He's great. Can't wait to see him live action.
Oh, yeah. With red contacts.
Ooh, how do they get that blue of his skin is just so perfectly beautiful blue. Can't wait to see it. But what's Ezra like? Is he more dark? Is he more light? Is he been put in carbonite for the last 10 years? So he's going to wake up going, when did you get old? We got some questions here. Can't wait to see him.
Definitely. I'm hoping that we, at least at the very end of episode 6, get left with
Something.
something. They've done a great job of setting everything up. And again, we got 3 episodes left, hopefully a bit longer, so we get some resolution and a good story here. But it has been over halfway through the show now, leading up to finding
Just them leaving.
Ezra and yeah,
Yeah.
just them trying to leave. As far as closing thoughts, I really enjoyed that there were so many little Easter eggs in this episode. Like when Ahsoka says, I won't fight you, and Anakin. I've heard that before. He's referring to Luke in The Last Jedi, stuff like that.
I wanted him to say, then you will die. I got to say that I'm very happy. I appreciate Christian Haydenson coming in. I appreciate him doing his work. I thought he was great as in Kenobi. I very much enjoyed him in this. Again, the costumes are all amazing. The fight choreography is good. The fighter combat is good. Everything that I'm seeing is what I want, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, give Dave Filoni the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, him and Favreau, right now, they would have to do something really horrible involving kerosene and puppies for me not to like them. Everything they're doing with Star Wars, The Mandalorian exists because of Favreau. Everything that Favreau's doing with MCU, I'm just thrilled. I'm happy. I absolutely love what they're doing and what's coming out. And I'm just hopeful for more.
Yeah, this episode made me want Dave Filoni to direct a live action Clone Wars movie. Honestly, I would eat it right up. Even if it's all soundstage, I don't care. Just do it.
Yeah.
I will say I did have the realization that after watching episode 5, I was not missing Sabine in this episode, but I did miss seeing Hetty and Balin.
I want more of him and his apprentice. I think that's what our next episode's going to be. If it's going to be a filler episode, here we are in the spaceship going across the universe. Look, angst and anger. I can kick your butt only because you got me chained up, cowgirl. There's going to be some smack talk and there's going to be some sass. I just want more Haiti.
I want to get more inside of those two characters as well. Any other thoughts about episodes 3 through 5?
I, I, I know I've talked about the lightsaber choreography. Dude, seriously. The person who did the choreography ever hears this, you're a god. Literally, you've done so much. And the fact that you've been able to get actors who are obviously athletic, but the
Mhm.
differences in the fight between Ahsoka and the Mandalorian, that was one of the lamest fights I ever saw.
Yeah.
To
Especially
what
compared to
was,
this.
especially compared to this, and especially being so true to the fighting styles and forms. Ahsoka fought in her style from Clone Wars. She fought in Samurai. She fought two sword samurai, and there was something else mixed in there too. That speaks very highly of the team being able to train the actors and the actors being able to learn it. It's good stuff. So that's my biggest takeaway is the choreography team for Ahsoka are amazing.
And you mentioning the samurai style, it's making me want to, after tonight, go jump on Ghost of Tsushima and play that.
Have you seen Yojimbo, the Kurosawa film?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you gotta go watch. It's a black and white samurai film.
Okay.
It is directly cited as one of the sources for the Jedi and the Sith.
Oh, wow.
Okay, it's called Yojimbo. You've seen the movie remade as gangsters and other stuff. Last Man Standing was a remake of it. I think,
1961 film?
yeah,
Okay.
by
Okay.
Kurosawa.
I'm definitely going to check it out this week.
Yeah,
It's on HBO. Perfect.
yeah.
I'll
It's
watch it
been
tomorrow.
remade like 5 different times, modernized, redone.
I'll
was
definitely check it out.
outstanding.
Like I said, I've been getting into that stuff lately.
And if your TV will support it at the high enough resolution, black and white film was better than color film in the day. Oh, it looks really
50s.
good. Yeah, it looks really good.
I'll check it out, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
If I were to say the classic samurai film, that film. But yeah, I like everything about these episodes. I am total fanboy on this. The costumes are amazing. You get to see the Night Witch's costume a little bit more, and it's
Mhm.
overlapping multiple layers of fabric, and you can see highlights and dark spots on her fabric like it's been worn over for years. Oh, God, this costumes are amazing.
Thank you again, Mark, for coming on and
Of course.
spending a couple hours just diving into Star Wars and Ahsoka. Like I said, I've been excited to dive into it all day. So thank you.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Always a thrill to talk about Star Wars.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us for our coverage of Ahsoka episodes 3, 4, and 5. I honestly really had a great time, and I am excited to be covering the last 3 episodes in the next few weeks. If you haven't already, feel free to join the Cinema Club Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/the Cinema Club TCC. That way you can see the upcoming films and television series that we will be covering on the Cinema Club so that you can be watching those ahead of time so you're ready to dive into the episodes when we post those. We also offer the Cinema Club podcast basically everywhere podcasts can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, or even on YouTube as well now. But if you are interested in potentially joining Nick or myself on the Cinema Club, you can definitely shoot us over an email at thecinemaclubtcc@gmail.com. And again, completely optional, but we are completely supported by you, our listeners. So if you are loving the show and if you are feeling generous, please consider clicking the support button on our website. You can check our website out at podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/the Cinema Club. Thank you so much, and we will catch up with you on the next one.